My name is Stephen Anti and welcome to Joynews Today. Now, the details: the Chebi Government Hospital in the Eastern region, typical of most public healthcare facilities, is not as adequately equipped as the authorities would want it to be. Most of them, for years, have had to grapple with challenges ranging from lack of enough staff and their accommodation and logistics. What the Chebi Hospital needs the most, however, is chemistry analyzer for its laboratory. MFA Ewenam Atiamwa Eli has more.
The Chebi Government Hospital is one of two district hospitals serving the Chebi and Isachim districts. Per its strategic location along the Accra-Kumasi Highway, it remains the first port of call for especially victims of motor accidents and for residents in the surrounding communities. The chemistry analyzer is just one of the many things the hospital lacks. But the laboratory technician believes it is the one thing that impacts most significantly on healthcare delivery.
When the doctor diagnoses something concerning liver or kidney, now this is clinical diagnosis. Then we do biodiagnostics with the chemistry analyzer. We actually take your sample like blood, take the serum, and then we go and then analyze and see whether really the kidney or the liver is being affected. Now, any internal organs, these are the analyzers that you use to actually determine them. And then most of the problems are on the HIV patients because the T cells of the patients are always very low, and it puts pressure on the internal organs, especially the liver and then the kidney. And they need to do all this at least every month.
Hospital authorities say the lack of the analyzer means the patients are referred to nearby private facilities, except they never return for the doctors to complete their diagnosis and treatment.
Okay, it will cost the person not less than 200 Ghana when you go to.
But assuming it were at the government hospital here, how much would you have in charge?
Okay, we have the what you call health insurance covers it. So we have the this in the list here. We have the insurance that's non-insured. This is price list for insured. And then we have the LFT is 8 cedis, 14 pesos.
Wow.
Yes, very cheap.
The Chebi Government Hospital, as far as authorities can remember, has never operated with a chemistry analyzer. But there are other problems that need to be resolved. Among them, the lack of accommodation for staff, inadequate medical staff and limited space at the morgue. Some health officers posted to the facility never turn up, especially because there are no quarters to house them. A case in point is an ophthalmologist who is yet to take up the post because there was no accommodation when he first reported. The hospital, he says, is having to find a way around the problem.
Fortunately, we have an ophthalmic nurse who is currently in charge of the place, but there are certain cases which are beyond her capability, and therefore we will need the optometrist. Sometimes we want the staff to come, but even when they come, we don't have a place to accommodate them. And there's a labor ward now that is fully furnished, but it's not functioning because we don't have the requisite staff, that's the midwives, to man the place. So the place is nice, very nice for the pregnant women, but it's not being used because we don't have enough staff. If we should open that department to make it operational, then it means that we will have to move the already inadequate staff from other departments to that place, and we cannot afford to do that.
The Deputy Director of Nursing, Madam Mary Yvonne Atipo, is meanwhile urging women in the area to quickly report to the hospital for antenatal care immediately they realize they are pregnant in order to avoid complications. MFA Ewenam Atiamwa Eli for Joy News.
Well, welcome back to the studio. We have with us Isaac Ampoma, who is the advocacy officer of the coalition of NGOs. He's also the president of the Concerned Health Education. It's great to have you today. I mean, it's a sad story, though. If we look at the situation at the Chebi Hospital, it's a reflection of what happens in most hospitals across the country, really. I mean, as a member of the coalition of NGOs on health, what do you think is the critical step that we should all be taking to resolve some of these health challenges facing the medical facilities?
All right, thank you very much. Thank you for the opportunity. Yes, health system in itself generally is a major concern for all of us, and for that matter, as a civil society activist, I think we need to ensure that access to health care is there for everybody, and for that matter, we shouldn't even try to risk losing lives. So it is incumbent on governments to make sure that systems are properly set up for the health system to operate. But again, it is also a challenge.
Let's probe it bit by bit. I mean, you want access to health to be made accessible to all, systems put in place. What kinds of systems, really? We have the education ministry, we have the district, we have the health ministry, we have the various district health and municipal district offices. Are the systems not already in place?
Well, the challenge is that as citizens, we all look up to our leaders to provide the services for us, because we're giving them the opportunity, we're giving them the right to handle our resources. And even if the resources are not there, government should be able to be bold and step down and tell the people the situation, so that at least within the various private-public partnership, we'll be able to work closely to find out what is the problem. For instance, if a hospital does not have certain assets, it may not necessarily have to be coming from government. Private-public partnership can come on board to make sure such situations are fixed. I quite remember in 2008, policymakers and development partners raised an emergency on maternal mortality, and therefore the Millennium Accelerated Goal was established. The Millennium Accelerated Framework has laid down specific planned activities that needs to happen. We need to have anesthetists in our hospitals. We need to ensure that we have a safe delivery within the various hospitals, and these are the issues. Donors have put in their money, and it is up to us to demand government to make sure that health system is ready.
So you mainly will put this blame squarely at the doorstep of governments. Possibly you are suggesting that government is not putting in enough funding?
Well, we don't directly say government, but at least we want to take government on to create that platform for private-public partnership to engage, so that government should be open enough to tell us the problem. You know, not try to all the time try to find, you know, other excuses. We know that health system generally is a problem, not only in Ghana, across Africa, and even the developed world. You understand? So it is up to government to say, hey, let's all bring our resources on deck, and let's try to see if we can find a lasting solution to this health situation.
Let's look at the key problems. I mean, one, the shortage of doctors, or the inability of doctors and health workers to accept posting to rural areas. What are the other problems? What other problems are there? Because I mean, obviously, if we don't know the problem, we can't begin to think about the solution.
Certainly, every human being would like to work in a very good environment. You know, the doctor believes he has been trained. He needs to be posted to an environment where facilities are available. First of all, a doctor denying or refusing to go on postings is wrong. We are not promoting that. Every doctor, irrespective of who you are, you have the right to serve the people, because that is your profession. Again, also, let's find out why doctors aren't going. For all you know, there are lack of accommodation. There are other environmental challenges that the doctor may not stick to, and these are issues we need to discuss. But then again, it also called for, you know, it's a bigger platform to invite other stakeholders on board, you know, to discuss how best we can all make the health system work. Yes.
But do you think there's hope, really, to resuscitate the health system?
I think the health system has done well, looking at the past 20 years. But yes, still there is a lot more to be done, and I believe when collectively we all work hand in hand, we'll be able to achieve that optimal health that we are all looking for.
I keep asking whether the national health insurance system, in your view, do you think that it's not perhaps time for the national health insurance system to be equipped or revamped to make it strong enough to step in as the fund provider for some of these hospitals who are collapsing?
I think currently the National Health Insurance Scheme has done well. Of course, it started from what do you call it, pay system, where of course now is now moving gradually into a capitation. The capitation was piloted, and I believe currently it is time to roll out the capitation to other regions.
There's been many questions over whether the capitation is the right thing and not. I mean, what's your position on this capitation thing? Do you think it's the right thing, right approach?
I think by the act, the capitation is mandatory and it is legal. Of course, we need to find out how best it will help us all. Having piloted it, I believe we can learn the experiences of the pilot and then use it to cushion the shocks or the effect, so that we all work closely to ensure that we live in a very effective health system, that we can be assured of reduction of maternal mortality and also have a bigger hope for our children to come.
So beyond public-private partnerships, what else?
Well, I think the citizenry in itself needs to also work hand in hand.
How?
Optimal healthcare is not only the health practitioner, it is also communities, societies, religious bodies, and everybody. But then we also hold government accountable to make sure that systems are there for us to effectively make this a success for all of us.
Right. We're very grateful that you could make time with us. And then Isaac Ampoma is the president of the Concerned Health Education and is an advocacy member of the coalition of NGOs. Now, the National Labour Commission has summoned both the finance and education ministries to appear before it to explain why book and research allowances to university teachers have not been paid. Members of the University Teachers Association, UTA, gave government an 8-day ultimatum which ends Tuesday, April 15, to pay their allowance or risk a nationwide boycott. I earlier spoke on News Desk with Paul Krampa, who is a PRO of the Ministry of Education. This whole book and research allowance that university teachers are asking, have not been paid for. What exactly is it?
Yeah, over the years, the ministry was paying book and research allowances to university and then polytechnic lecturers. But as time went on, we realized that that money was not adequate for them. There was the need for us to have a fund that will actually enable them to undertake meaningful research work. Because if you look at the money that is being given, it is not sufficient, and it cannot undertake any meaningful research work. Based upon that, we held consultative meetings with the vice chancellors, the rectors of polytechnics, as well as POTAC and then UTAC, to tell them that there was a need for us to have a research fund.
Right.
Yeah, and that was actually, well, the proposal was to the government approved of it. And as you will recall, during the budget for 2014, the finance minister indicated that the government was going to set up a national research fund to enable as many lecturers as possible to access and then undertake meaningful research. Now, throughout our discussions with POTAC and UTAC, they were not so interested in it. They still insisted that they wanted a situation whereby they will continue to receive their book and research allowance, and that there should be an independent research fund. If you get a point.
Yes, I do.
Then that one should be independent.
But this research fund in question, the teachers, most of UTAG members we have spoken to, have concerns about the equitable distribution or ease of access to this fund. I mean, which really is tied to their ability to progress. So, I mean, what really have you been talking about with them?
Stephen, the money that they are talking about is nothing to talk about, honestly. It's not anything that anybody can undertake any meaningful research work with. You get the point. Now, we have realized as a ministry that there is the need for our lecturers who are researchers to undertake meaningful research work instead of this peanut that is being paid to them as book and research allowance.
Now to other stories. The Minister of Interior, Kwesi Ahoy, is currently touring the northern region where there were recent clashes in the East Mamprosi district, which led to the Interior Ministry to impose a curfew on affected communities. Our northern regional reporter, Mohammed Hashmi, now joins us on telephone. Mohammed, good afternoon and thanks for joining us on News Today.
Thank you very much.
So give us a quick wrap. What's happening on this tour currently?
Well, the Interior Minister has just touched base in Nalerugu. Right now, though, he's receiving briefing from the District Security Council, and after that, he will be moving to pay a courtesy call on the overlord of Mampu before he will be visiting the communities. Like you mentioned earlier, on early this month, violent clashes between Mampusis and Kukumbes at ethnic group at one side as against the movers left about four people dead, with over 100 residents in the area rendered homeless as a result of that. Now, also among this the delegation visiting the communities is also the Inspector General of Police, Mohammed Al-Hassan, and then the Interior Minister is also being accompanied by his deputy, James Agalga, and NADMO officials in the region.
So, I mean, tell us about this East Mamprosi clashes. We have heard quite a lot. But before the minister's tour, prior to that, were there any incidents which you could discuss with us?
Early this month, like I mentioned earlier on, there was some violent clashes between two ethnic groups in the area, the Mampusis and Kunkumbes at one side, as against the movers. And now about three people were confirmed dead in that violent conflict in the area, and several houses were also set ablaze. Now, residents in the area have fled some of the conflict communities, and they have since not returned back. The Northern Regional Security Council, the Ministry of Interior, on the advice of the Northern Regional Security Council, imposed a curfew there to prevent an escalation of the violent conflict in the area to neighboring community. So, according to the Interior Minister, he will be receiving briefing from the District Security Council, and it is based on the briefing and his assessment that they will recommend whether the curfew there should be lifted or should be extended in the community. You remember earlier on when the incident happened, some opinion leaders in Nakwan pleaded to the Northern Regional Security Council and then that of the Interior Ministry to lift the curfew there. But ever since the incident happened, there haven't been any violent clash again. Camp has since returned to the area.
Right. We're very grateful, Mohammed Hashmin. We do hope that as and when the tour progresses, you will give us update of whatever happens from there. We're grateful. Thank you very much. Mohammed Hashmi is on the ground in the northern region where the Minister of Interior is currently touring. I mean, his tour has been precipitated by recent clashes in the Mamprosi East district, which led to several injuries and death and damage of properties there. So we'll get you updated on that as and when we have more information too. Now, the acting dean of the Central University College Faculty of Law and criminologist Professor Ken Atefa says inmates at the various prisons in the country need to sue the state for dehumanizing conditions they are subjected to. The state of prisons in Ghana has raised concerns for years. Inmates at the Koforidua Central Prison during a recent visit by the Eastern Regional Minister Julius Debra called for improved and better conditions within the facility. It was revealed that about 700 inmates crammed at the facility queue to attend to Nature's Call in 3 water closets which had water hardly running through them. Communicable diseases such as tuberculosis and chickenpox are a common sight at the place. Daily feed for inmates was recently increased from 60 pesos to $1. Ghana cedis, 80 pesos. Stephen Atuga, an NDC activist, has been championing for the rights of prisoners, and he now joins us on telephone for a chat. Good afternoon, Steve.
Good afternoon, my brother, and good afternoon to listeners.
It's been a while. I mean, your time in prison might have taught you quite some lessons which ordinarily those of us who haven't been to prison before may not know. Looking at the fact that the inmates at Koforidua Central Prisons are now demanding for better facilities, we do know that you have experienced some of the prison conditions. Tell us, are their demands too much to ask for?
Thank you very much, my brother. And I want to say prisoners are human beings, and that institution is capable, or is an institution that whether you're a lawyer, doctor, president, minister, teacher, police officer, even the prison officers themselves, is a place that you may find yourself in a situation that is where you may have to live to pay a price of certain crime, whether it's white-collar crime or robbery or whatever you call it. But prisoners deserve the same decency of living standard just as any average or a Ghanaian. And water and bathrooms and the toilet facility, they are basic necessity that I think every prisoner deserves the dignity of having those amenities and facilities in those institutions. Yes, it is true that that place, I mean, when I hear what is going on there, I ask myself, wow, what is happening? But I haven't said all that. I know government has done so much. If you go to some parts of Nsawam and Akuse, they have water closets, they have water running in there, they have tanks. And I think people that are doing better, philanthropists and these organizations can also step in to help government. To help the government, like donating water tanks, and these NGOs are doing that. But I think government has to also look at it and make it a priority. And we're not going to only talk about their standard of living. We have people sitting in that institution for years. They haven't had the chance to go for trial. You have an average student who has stolen maybe a cell phone, who is sitting there for 7, 8 years, 10 years without no trial, my brother. So I think just as we are looking at their welfare, let's also look at some people don't belong there, or they've been there so much that their rights has been abused. And I think the human rights activists can lace with that institution and make it once in a while. They'll go in there, how many people are sitting there without not having trial, what is their condition. And then, you know, if the whip has to be cracked on the government, then so should it be. And I think the dignity of a prisoner should not be taken lightly. They are human beings, and they have the equal rights of enjoying a basic facility just as an outsider, if I'm not mistaken.
Right, but Steve, are you not treated exactly badly? From our interaction with you, you were treated well.
Honestly, to my experience, when I went in there was no any special service for me or any special treatment than the others. I shared room with my 8 inmates. We shared beds. And one thing I want public to know is that the prison is an institution by itself, that it has its rules, it has its regulations. Like in a room, they have a commander in the room, they have a judge in the room, they have a police officer that will arrest. I'm talking about the rules and regulations in your rooms where you sleep. So if you wake up in the morning, the rule is if you don't brush your teeth, don't talk to anybody. If you talk to somebody, you get charged. If you use the bathroom in a certain way in the room, they charge you and you pay. So besides the prison rules and regulations, in the rooms there are rules and regulations. And it's an institution that I think when I had the opportunity to go in there, I think the prison officers, they need the leaders of the prisoners themselves to be able to control the inmates. And if you go there, they are very professional. I mean, I admire there was no any special treatment for me. I ate the same food they ate. We played together. I wasn't treated. I ate the food that they ate. I played with them. We did everything. The only difference is once you are there with them, they think that they have hope with you. Once you're a political prisoner, all of them will come and tell you their problems, the injustice they are facing in there, the problems, and they hope and pray that when you come out, you'll be able to put the word out there their problems to be heard. That is the only thing. And they look at you to be like a saver. I'm talking about the prisoners. But in terms of treatment, what time you line up for them to count you people, what time you go to sleep, what time they're hoping for you to come out and enjoy the TVs that has been put there in most of the prisons, there's no any special privilege.
Right, Steve. Finally, you tell me, you've started some foundation of a sort to try and bring some relief to prisoners. How far has that gone?
There have been financial challenges here and there, but in terms of reaching out to the people that matter within the rank and file of the government, in terms of the standard of living of most of the prisoners and also the rights of some of the prisoners, we've done it. And I think the right office was able to explain that if you look at the amnesty that was even given to most of the prisoners, and most of them to those who have been sitting there for a trial, not all of them, I'm not saying, but a lot has been done for most of them to get a fair trial to, and I think advocating that alone for a man to have his right of coming out, to have freedom and joining the family is bigger than a bowl of rice and maybe clothes. But there's a lot to be done. So I use this opportunity to encourage people, Ghanaians. We shouldn't think that if you look at most of the great leaders, fortunately, of our country, from Kwame Nkrumah down to, they've all tasted food, and it's a place that you may find yourself. And I think let's give them some dignity, and let's give back to the community by visiting them. And we shouldn't look at them like they're not useful to society anymore. They need our help out there.
Right.
And I think every Ghanaian, we could make a difference. And I'm doing what I can do as an individual, both with the political connection and also talking to some of them personally. And most of them, when they come out, they call me. I talk to them, hey, don't go back there. Because some of them don't have no home. They think the only place they belong, they've been there so long that the only place they think they belong is the prison. So if you bring them out today, they deliberately go out and commit a crime just to go because they guarantee 3 square meals in there and accommodation. So I think there's a lot we could do, and I think it's a topic by itself that I'll find time and we'll discuss that.
Yes, thank you very much, Stephen. We're grateful for your time. And Steve Atubiga is a political activist. He went to jail previously. My name is Stephen Enti, and this is Joynews Today. We'll take a break, and we'll be right back. In business, macroeconomist and dean of students at the Methodist University College has asked government to focus on reviving the agricultural sector to boost the economy. He says a boost in the sector will boost the country's GDP with a ripple effect on the other sectors of the economy, especially because it remains the major employer of the populace.
Macroeconomist Charles Opoku, in a reaction to the latest GDP statistics, indicated that agricultural sector grew the least as compared to service and industry because the policies put in place by government did not yield the expected results.
Deciding on doing something is one thing, and actually doing it is the other side of the coin. Now, even whilst you have even decided to do it, how do you go about it? Do you actually supervise the working of the policy? And that is a problem. So you can decide to put a policy in place. For example, the government decided that we will bring fertilizer, for example, at a cheaper cost. We will bring tractors, subsidize them, so that it will get to the farming community, and then we'll be able to improve the agricultural sector. What happened? What we realized was that, yes, the subsidy was done, but it ended up in the pockets of individuals who are not even involved in the agricultural sector.
Even with about 70% of the population in the agricultural sector, he says the country is unable to produce enough compared to countries which have a lot fewer of the population in that sector.
The research was about growing the economy, achieving a higher GDP growth rate, which sector to lead. And our finding, based on the data available, showed that if we want to have a higher growth in GDP, then the agricultural sector should lead. So it means that as a country, we have the strength in the agricultural sector. Therefore, we should depend on that to start the growth process, so that when it is able to move up, we are able to improve that sector. We are able to become efficient in the agricultural sector. Then, like I said, we will have the raw materials to feed industry. We'll be able to take or siphon some of the labor force from the agricultural sector into the industrial sector, and the agricultural people will not be affected, which means that the agricultural sector will continue to grow because it has become so efficient. So if we have not been able to do that, then I'm sorry, we will not be able to say that we are growing the industrial sector. It will not work.
And the Akumadan Tomato Farmers Association is urging government to prevail on fresh tomato traders to choose their produce over that from Burkina Faso. Nesta Kafuyajuma reports the Brongahafo region farmers are desperate. Without the patronage, they won't be able to recoup sums of money they spent on their farms.
Last year, the Ministry of Food and Agriculture, in collaboration with the South Korean government, inaugurated a $2.2 million tomato expansion irrigation project at Akumadan in the Offenso North District. The project was aimed at improving irrigation systems in the Akumadan area in order to ensure all-year-round tomato production. The farmers were therefore encouraged to venture into tomato cultivation at the Akumadan irrigation scheme so they could feed the tomato factory at Wenchi. The factory is now defunct, and the tomato farmers say they are doomed. Despite their investments, traders from across the country decide to bypass them and buy from neighboring Burkina Faso.
Misra Ghana by and in penny for one my tontosi say, Yampaji and Nijan Yakuponim, Nabakina Diano, Wamumeki Kakra, and my Nomumra, Akuma Dam, no Mamma Tontos in my end, Nesomba Tomayan, Nianso Yenya, at the Pebby Free Moa. Nyakopoya domo to yan kwanem e ma afida beto ye betima be ye adwuma no de chen sei ne nso nya be de ahwe aboa ye ma school ehwem
efri samre kwa bia no omodaroma ommoaye esesu yetangu se Burkina Faso die no eda so ho nti yesre Ghana abai ne abai mo mpanyimfo a enam wo mo so a e makoli abai e baba ye dam no ma ye ne se omutu omo nansi fom na sabre kwa die omo ne atofo no nhihye se de be ya omudu akomadan so a ombe gina no mabusaye. Explaining
the operations of the Akumadan irrigation scheme, the plant engineer Amos Bila said they spend as much as 13,500 Ghana cedis on power. This amount, he stated, is passed on to the farmers, the more reason why they need to be successful in selling their produce. Nesta Kafuyajoma filed this report from the Brongahafo region.
And still on agric, the Food and Agric Organization of the United Nations is warning countries to step up monitoring, reporting and prevention of one of the world's most destructive banana diseases, Fusarium wilt. Fusarium wilt has recently spread from Asia to Africa and the Middle East, and which has the potential to affect countries in Latin America. The TR4 race of the disease, which is also known as Panama disease, is posing a serious threat to production and export of the popular fruit. This, the FAO said, has serious repercussions for the banana value chain and livelihoods. Banana is the 8th most important food crop in the world and the 4th most important food crop among the world's least developed countries. And the World Trade Organization says the growth of global commerce will pick up speed this year and next. The WTO said trade will grow by a modest 4.7% this year and by 5.3% in 2015. Next year's figure, if correct, will be in line with the average growth rate in world trade over the last 20 years. These forecasts are consistent with other figures that show the world economy is gradually recovering from the financial crisis. The agency's Director General Roberto Azevedo said just waiting for an automatic increase in trade was not enough. He called for new trade liberalization agreements, in particular the negotiations known as the Doha Round. And the World Gold Council has estimated China's demand for gold is set to rise by about 20% over the next few years as the population becomes more wealthy. The council estimates private sector demand for gold in China will rise to at least 1,350 tons by 2017. Chinese customers bought 1,132 tons of gold last year in jewelry as well as gold bars and coins for investment. The forecast comes as China becomes the world's largest gold-consuming nation since last year, overtaking India. The World Gold Council says China is at the center of the global gold ecosystem as rapid urbanization creates a rising middle class. According to the council, consumers bought a record amount of gold last year, with Asia's economic heavyweights, China and India, in the top two spots. In Western markets, demand for the precious metal remained strong, particularly in the US, where people bought a lot of gold jewelry as well as gold bars and coins. Right, so that's how we wrap up on the business. We'll be right back with sports. This is News Today. My name is Stephen Enti. And in sports, the Ghana Football Association, GFA, has sent a commendation message as a tribute to James Kwesi Appiah after he was conferred with a doctorate degree. The ex-Ghana defender was awarded a doctorate degree by the Day Spring Christian University of Mississippi, United States, for being the first native coach to lead the national team to the World Cup and for the successes he has contributed to Ghana football. Dr. Appiah was conferred an honorary doctorate and delivered the convocation address at the School of Allied Sciences campus in Accra on Saturday. The GFA President Kwesi Nyantakyi, on behalf of the sports body, has congratulated the Black Stars coach for the recognition handed him by the university. Primeval Consult will organize an exhibition match between the Black Stars and a local select side alongside massive entertainment at the Accra Sports Stadium on May 23rd to offer the national team an opportunity to bid farewell to fans before jetting out of the country for intense camping ahead of the World Cup. Fans will choose a local select side by texting as many times their preferred team players and technical team on the short code 1413 across all networks. Opariotu, a CEO of Primeval Consult, and explained the motive behind the event.
Opportunity to the fans, the supporters, that we believe that we are coaches, to select a local side that will play against the Black Stars. This time around, the supporters out there, they are going to become the coaches. We are not picking any coach. The supporters, it is your responsibility to pick the players. Then, of course, it is also your responsibility to pick the coach who will manage the select side. There will be a short code that you have to send the player's name, then the short code. So basically, that is the reason why we're putting this program together, so that the Black Stars can say thank you to the people of Ghana. We are going to Brazil and we need you to support us. We are not doing this alone. We want to add entertainment to it. So we've engaged Ochiame Kwame.
And Borussia Mönchengladbach has signed Guinea international Ibrahima Traoré from VfB Stuttgart for next season. The 25-year-old winger joins on a free transfer and has signed a 4-year contract with the Bundesliga club. Traoré in the past has rejected moves to play in the English Premier League. Traoré is one of the few players who have made an impact for Stuttgart this season after the Bundesliga champions battle to avoid relegation with 4 games left. He has played a total of 71 Bundesliga games and scored 6 goals. Mönchengladbach are 6th in the Bundesliga and are eyeing a place in next season's Europa League. And Italian Serie A leader Juventus took another step towards the league title with a comfortable win at Udinese. Juventus now has 87 points, followed by Roma with 79 points. Liverpool captain Steven Gerrard has revealed that the imminent anniversary of the Hillsborough disaster was behind his. Right, that's it for sports. My name is Steven Anti. We'll be right back. Stay with us. Now, on the international front, observers from the West African Regional Bloc, ECOWAS, on Monday said Guinea-Bissau's weekend election was free and fair and called on international donors to restart cooperation suspended in the wake of a 2012 coup. Bissau's Guineans flocked to the polls in large numbers on Sunday to vote in long-delayed legislative and presidential polls meant to bring stability to the former Portuguese colony after years of pushes and political infighting. No elected president has completed a 5-year term in Guinea-Bissau, which has become a major transit point for smugglers ferrying Latin American cocaine to Europe. The mission noted a few isolated problems in certain areas, including a shortage of ballot papers and an attack by the National Guard on some supporters of one candidate, but said these did not impair the overall conduct of the election. The last election in 2012 was aborted when troops under Army Chief Antonio Injai stormed the presidential palace days before the presidential second round vote was due to take place, plunging the country into chaos. Many in Bissau hope a successful transition to democracy can unlock donor funding for the world's poorest countries. Let's get on to the phone lines now. We're joined by Dr. Vladimir Ntridanso, who is Associate Director for the Center for Regional Integration in Africa. Good afternoon, sir, and thanks for joining us on Joy News today.
You're very welcome.
So, Guinea-Bissau, the call to lift sanctions and perhaps calling for re-establishment of cooperation, is this too soon, or the timing is just fine?
No, I don't think it's too soon. It's about time we did, because now that ECOWAS has accepted the results, and it looks as though once for a while, I think the whole international community has gotten focused on that small country. We need to lift the sanctions so that we don't exacerbate the situation where no government serves its term and where gangsterism and the show of power by the military is always the case. We lift the sanctions, and the new government will have the chance to work assiduously in order to put things back to normal.
Now, how crucial is this vote to bring in Guinea-Bissau out of the dark, really?
It is very crucial in the sense that, I mean, nobody thought we would be able to hold it. We've held it, but my problem is whether the government can really rally people around itself, I mean, from all factions, and put the country on the trail. Because in the past, we had the same thing. We voted. The government was about 2 weeks into handing over our new elections, and then there was that chaos. So let's pray that this thing doesn't happen anymore.
Now, we know that Guinea-Bissau has been tagged as the narco state of Africa, really. Many of its islands are unpoliced and security personnel involved in drug trade. How can ECOWAS assist after this poll?
ECOWAS can assist in several ways. Institutional renewal, that rebuilding their institutions, security reform, very important. And ECOWAS can help also in patrolling the seas around and making sure that it doesn't turn itself into that kind of entrepot where almost every narcotic trade going on in West Africa has to pass. The best thing is the institutional renewal that can bring about democracy. When their institutions are very strong, I think they will be able to handle this issue very effectively.
Now, sir, let's digress slightly from Guinea-Bissau and talk about the crisis in Ukraine. U.S. President Barack Obama has urged Vladimir Putin to make his influence, let the activists in eastern Ukraine to step down. Does it appear that Ukraine seems to be a bubbling World War III staring in our face?
I don't think that we would enter into World War III, but we are continuing the Cold War kind of perceptions and misperceptions. In actual fact, the geopolitics of the area shows that Putin would never relent in annexing Crimea, for example. The story is very simple. Crimea never was part of Ukraine until 1954. And if it is going to go into Europe, that Ukraine was going to go into Europe, then it stands to reason that Russia was going to lose a certain territory, and especially geostrategic territory. That's what happened. Now, the south and eastern portion of Ukraine is Russian-speaking. Once it is seriously Russian-speaking, and part of Ukraine want to be pro-Europe and part want to be pro-Russian, we should expect these things. The pro-Russian elements have now seized buildings, etc., in that eastern half. And remember, all these eastern half also essentially belong to Russia by 1918, when Lenin ceded it. So we need to understand what is happening, and only diplomacy would work. If we do not work through diplomacy and we say that, oh, it's an incursion, it's an invasion, it's whatnot, Putin will be stronger. He must 40,000 troops along the borders, just because if Ukraine wants to play ball with Europe, then Russia is there where security is concerned. And so, fine, he may not have fomented the trouble, but the way the Ukrainian uprising went, when the pro-Western forces were so vociferous and wanting links with, instead of Ukrainian independence, we're not going to see World War III. America will not attack Russia. Russia will not attack America. But what we are going to see is some turmoil in Ukraine for a long time because of the East-West divide within the country.
Right. We're very grateful, Dr. Vladimir Ainchi. He thinks that diplomacy is key in resolving the problem in Ukraine. On showbiz, apart from cultural troops and some churches in Ghana who patronize drums, its patronage these days seem very low. Is it that we are allowing technology to take over the use of our traditional drums, while showbiz attempts to find an answer?
Known for its unique sound produced in music, drums have over the years served as one of the major musical instruments of time in our everyday music. From the dundos all the way to the talking drums, they have all been a great asset to the industry. The question is, how well do we patronize these drums? These drums are made here and would rather be shipped to other countries because of its low patronage in the country.
These days, drum business has gone down. So comparing to 3-4 years back, it has gone down totally. And now we are trying, our people with the culture, we are enjoying it, but people always want to listen down to also put their self into it. Because mostly we are trying to forget our culture, but you know, we should know our root.
According to these craftsmen at the Art Center here in Accra, whose specialty is drum making, drums provide strong beat that keeps the rhythm on. They are therefore encouraging Ghanaian musicians to do more live music, which will urge them to patronize these drums.
Nowadays, Ghanaian music, if you want to make music and make money, you have to come back to your root. Because now it's computer world. So if you are a musician, you are just popular for nothing, but live show is the culture. So if they want, they should come back to their root, and then we all join hands together and build the root up.
It is said that drums are the prehistoric musical instruments without which music sounds very empty. Hence, industry players who are poised to change and help the music industry grow could consider refining their live band prowess.
Well, that's it for showbiz, and that's how we wrap Joy News today. In our closing headlines, the National Labour Commission summons the Finance and Education Ministers to appear before it to explain why book and research allowances to university teachers have not been paid. And in business, macroeconomist and Dean of Studies at the Methodist University College asked government to focus on reviving the agricultural sector to boost the economy. And ECOWAS observers say Guinea-Bissau's weekend election was free and fair and are calling on international donors to restart cooperation. I'm Stephen Anti, and thanks for staying with us on Joynews Today. We'll be right back tomorrow with another edition. Thank you.